back in the day, you had that bankers, accountants, they worked on massive tables spread across the entire room, okay? And every number, every coordinate, every tax deduction had to manually be written down, either using a pencil or using a pen. And what that meant was that if you make a mistake at the top of every calculation, you know that everything that you have done is going to be wrong, okay? So you had to manually erase different rows, erase columns, and then recalculate by hand using some of those basic, very large desk calculators. So you would imagine how manual, how painstaking, how time draining this particular process would be. And just thinking about the fact that if just one mistake happens, okay, everything you have done becomes wrong. So this was life before personal computers. Now, the big spark happened in 1978, right, where a college student named Dan Bricklin watched his teacher constantly erase, redraw these grid lines on the blackboard, right, to make a business plan. And then he realized that, hey, these things called personal computers should be able to do this thing automatically, right? So immediately with one of his friends, he created a tool that is called VisiCalc. Okay, so VisiCalc was a short form of visible calculator, all right? And he created this particular tool for the then Apple computer. And then for the first time, it was able to change, those changes or corrections could be made, and then you do not have to recalculate or edit everything, all right? So VisiCalc was the first tool that was created that ran on a computer. It was a computer program, and it solved that problem of having to redo and recalculate whenever there are errors. Now, while VisiCalc was very useful, it still had a limitation, and that was that it couldn't create like visual summaries of your numbers, right? So in 1983, we now had a program that was now called Lotus 123. And that 123 simply meant that it could do three things on screen. All right, it could show basic rows and columns, one. Two, it could now turn those rows of numbers into like visual charts. So rather than just have rows, rather than have columns, it could now convert the data in those rows, in those columns, into charts that are pictorial, that people can see and that can be visually appealing. And then the third function was that it could organize names and it could also organize dates very quickly. So this was another very, very big step as far as analysis, as far as spreadsheets are concerned. Then in 1985, the big break, Microsoft Excel, okay? But like we mentioned before Excel, spreadsheets only showed like raw text on a blank screen, right? That's what VisiCalc looked like, okay? So you had to manually, blindly write commands that will help you to navigate through that screen. But in 1985, Microsoft created Excel, and Excel totally revolutionized the game as far as analysis, data analysis is concerned. So with Excel, instead of just typing keys or writing blind key commands, you could just use your mouse and just click on a particular cell. We will talk about what a cell is, all right? But you could just move your mouse, click on a particular cell that you want to edit, and immediately impute or edit that cell, okay? You also had a lot of fonts in Excel, had a lot of great colors in Excel, and this opened, the door to more professionals beyond just accountants or programmers, okay? So more of professionals could use it because it was visually appealing. It was also user-friendly. You could just use your mouse, do edits. There were more colors, there were more fonts on screen, and it just looked good and it made sense, okay?